Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, The Regal TV. Please, if you're just joining us for the very first time, I want you to do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on the notification button. Alright, so we'll be celebrating some of the illustrious sons of the Igbo nation who has made the Igbo nation so proud in their various areas of businesses and endeavors. Oh yes. Now in this episode, we'll be discussing the grass to grace story of Cosmos Maduka. That's the founder of Cosmos Group. See, all over Igbo land, there are thousands of success stories already told and untold that the world doesn't know yet about. In the journey through these stories, many had humble beginnings, while a few others had a strong financial boost from their already wealthy families. What success stories from Igbo land teaches the youths is that there isn't just hope for them, but that there are countless opportunities many can take advantage of. So, this is the success story of Cosmos Maduka, a Nigerian Igbo business magnate who didn't always have it all easy like very many other Igbo men, but also had his own share of humble beginnings. His story portrays that of a man who fights his way from poverty to unprecedented success. He went on to become the founder, president, and chairman of the Cosmos Group, an indigenous conglomerate with diverse interests in manufacturing, ICT, petrochemical, auto care and auto components, automobile sales and services, agri and agro-allied business sectors, etc., while still living a life of humility regardless of his enormous wealth. The early childhood life of Cosmos Maduka. Cosmos Maduka was born on the 24th of December 1958 in the city of Jos, where his parents lived for a long time. His father's name is Mr. Peter Maduka, while his mother's name is Mrs. Rosalind Maduka. The Maduka family hails from Nnewi in Anambra State. Cosmos' parents had 4 children, which they had in quick succession within 5 years. Cosmos was the second child. He had an elder brother, 1 younger brother, and a sister. In 1962, at the age of just 4, a great tragedy struck his family with the passing of his father. With the poor and pitiable status of his family then, Cosmos was withdrawn from primary school at elementary 3 and he started assisting his mother in hawking akara, a popular food staple in Nnewi, made from beans to support his mother in Plateau, Jos. He was faced with no other choice than to start providing the very basics of life for himself. Reminiscing about his father's death, Cosmos Maduka said, "My father died when I was just 4 years old. I remember that it was like a big festival going on in the house, and people gathered in the premise and were shooting guns. There were different masquerades around, and I saw my father lying on a bed lifeless in a black suit. My mother was barricaded in a corner where she cried helplessly, and people tried to hold and comfort her. One thing that made that day very special to me was that everybody was very kind to me. Rice that was not usually an everyday food was readily available. I ate all the rice that I could, and I was wishing a day like this would never end. Little did I know at that time that it was the death of my father they were marking." In 1964, Cosmos began his entrepreneurial journey at the age of 6. That's 2 years after the demise of his father. It was during this period the Nigerian Civil War broke out. Reminiscing about this period, Cosmos Maduka said, "At the age of 5, my mother was already making sure we worked or contributed to making ends meet for the family. I would go out early in the morning, just as the day is breaking, to go and grind beans for my mother to fry akara." In 1970, when Cosmos Maduka was 9 years old, one of his uncles who trades and resides at a Butemeta area in Lagos took charge of his well-being by bringing him over to serve as an automobile apprentice in his auto shop located at number 88 Griffith Street, close to Oyimbo bus stop, Lagos. Before the age of 12, Young Cosmos, through his hard work, dedication, and honesty, had totally won his uncle's trust. This made his uncle give him larger sensitive responsibilities, like him traveling alone to make purchases on his uncle's behalf from Nnewi. And by the time he clocked 13 years, he was sent to work at one of the branches at Sokoto and eventually Nnewi. I lived in a town called Gumi in Sokoto. I later came back to Lagos, Maduka said in an exclusive interview. In 1973, at the age of 15, his uncle terminated his contract untimely and settled him with a sum of 200 naira as punishment because he attended a church program, which means that he had to lock up the shop where he was working for the uncle. My elder brother told me to give him back the money. I then asked my brother if he had money to give me when we get home, but he said no. Cosmos Maduka then used the 200 naira and teamed up with his brother to form a company called Maduka Brothers. So they started buying spare parts that were scarce in Nnewi from Lagos and then take it to Nnewi. According to him, one day I found out that bullocks had motorcycle crash bars to protect people on a motorcycle. It was something that was scarce in Nnewi and many people didn't even know about it. I then bought some crash bars and took night bus to the east, sold them and went back to Lagos again. I did this about 3 times in 1 week and I made about 3,700 naira. At that time, there was a lot of money. Then Honda 175 was like a 7 Series BMW in Nnewi. If you had that, you were a big man. So after that trip, I bought Honda 175 for 700 naira. The only person driving it around that time was Cletus Ibeto, the man that owns Ibeto. In 1977, at the age of 19, Cosmos Maduka decided to get married to a beautiful woman called Charity. Shortly after his marriage, he started importing spare parts. In 1978, at the age of 20, Cosmos Maduka was struck with a great misfortune when he received the wrong spare parts consignment. This loss led him into several debts, and his landlord, which he owed several months of shop rent, ended up locking his shop. With nothing in hand, Cosmos Maduka had to start all over again, and in order to feed his family, he picked a weight scale that he had received as a gift from his marriage, took it to the market, and started to charge 10 kobo from everyone who measured their weight. This daily routine got his wife in deep tears because of what her husband was going through, remembering their previous comfortable state. Reminiscing about this dark experience, Cosmos Maduka said, "I lost all my first capital due to wrong imported goods. It was motorcycle spare parts, and the first thing I imported was Winker signal lights for CD 175. There was one that has a hook at the back, which is called Winker switch, and the second thing was gear pedals. You can get these things wrong with one single digit on the part number. So I made a mistake on the part number and the goods were unsellable. I then had to sell them way below the cost price, and this puts me into debt. For over 6 months, I could not pay my rent and I did not know what to do. This is a true story." The formation of coast carriers. In 1979, one of Cosmos Maduka's friends, whom he drove to Onitsha in the man's 504, loaned Cosmos 5,000 naira. It was this 5,000 naira that gave him another fresh start. Cosmos did business with the money, and by December 1979, he made 13,000 naira as profit alone. Cosmos then repaid back his friend the loan of 5,000 and also gave him another 5,000 as his loan interest, meaning he gave him 10,000 naira in return, while he continued his business with the remaining 8,000 naira. In 1980, Cosmos Maduka turned that 8,000 to 35,000. The following year, Cosmos Maduka teamed up with another friend of his called David Mosu, Both of them formed a company called Cosmos Motors. They were into spare parts importation. By the end of that year, their investment capital grew to 700,000 naira. In 1982, Maduka incorporated Coscaris Group. According to him, he said, Coscaris was an incorporation of my name and my wife's name, Charity, but I didn't want it to sound local by calling it Cos-Charity. And because it was Coscaris, some people thought it was a Greek name. In 1983, during the Buhari and the Diabon military regime, the magic in the name Coscaris showed when everything in Nigeria was now under import license, and the military government decided to give only 10 motor companies import license. But because the name Coscaris sounded Greek, and the government at the time included it during the awarding of the license, they first selected those big and familiar names like CFAO Motors, Leventis Motors, and Coscaris Motors was 7th on the list. Cosmos Maduka and his Coscaris are nothing compared to these other companies, but because the name Coscaris sounded Greek, the government at that time included it. According to Cosmos Maduka, he said, "This was actually the turning point where I made a quantum leap. I made money that drug pushers could not make because it was a seller's market." In 1998, after almost 6 years of BMW Motors leaving Nigeria, the company awarded Cosmos Maduka dealership license. Today, the Coscaris Group is a conglomerate with a net worth of $500 million with several subsidiaries including manufacturing, ICT, petrochemical, auto care and auto components, automobile sales and services, agric and agro-allied business sectors. Coscaris Motors is a leading distributor of several brands of luxury cars, including Range Rover, Ford, and Jaguar. In 2015, Coscaris Motors became the sole distributors of the BMW in Nigeria and the first company to build an assembly plant of Ford Ranger in Nigeria, and won the Auto Brand of the Year at the Marketing World Awards held in Ghana. So, this is the success story of Mr. Cosmos Maduka, the founder and the chairman of Coscaris Group. Yes, I hope this story inspires you. I hope it inspired you to keep striving, to keep pushing, to never relent, to keep aiming, to keep hoping, to keep fighting, to keep working. Yes, we know that the Igbo nation believe that there is dignity in labor. I really hope to see you soon and tell your success story.